Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, depending on where you are right now in the country. Thanks for being here. So I'm excited to walk you through today's presentation. So let's dive right in. So my name is Brent. I'm a Sage Intacct sales consultant with Vision 33, and I'm based in Vancouver, BC. So my role at the company is to help finance teams learn how to get the most out of Sage Intacct, things like streamlining processes, improving reporting, or just setting them up for, more smarter and faster decisions. And then we have Matthew today, my colleague, who will be walking you through a live demo shortly to show some of this in action. A quick rundown of today's session. I'll start with a brief 5-minute intro, and then Matthew will take over for about 40 minutes with the demo, and then we'll wrap it up with some time for your questions. Before we move to the demo, though, just a little information about who is Vision 33. So what we know is, of course, selecting the right software is important, but the right partner is the real difference maker for your business. And a few things that Vision 33 brings to the table is extensive support and industry experience. So we have many long-term customers who really rely on our partnership to support their business. And we're actually a leader in the Sage community as well. Implementation is really just the beginning of your journey, and Vision 33 is meant to be here for a long-term supportive and customer care focused experience for you. Ultimately, it comes down to our consistency, reliability, and a focus on excellent customer experiences while leveraging our knowledge to help you transform your accounting frustrations into success and strategic growth. So just like Sage Vision 33, we're a global company, but we like to say we operate as a smaller business because of our local approach. And our main operations, although in the US, Canada, and the UK, we do have certified consultants just throughout all of those regions to serve you locally. Here are some of our wonderful customers currently running Sage Intacct. They come from all over the spectrum, as you could see, including many nonprofits, SaaS and technology, professional services, and many more. I'm sure most of you have done your initial research on Sage Intacct, but here's a few highlights. As you can see, Sage Intacct supports several industries and offers industry-specific functionality. And Vision 33's biggest customer footprint is nonprofit, where we have approximately 35% of our client base. Building expertise in these verticals really helps us guide our customers down the right path with their implementation, including your sector's best practices for reporting. Here's a quick snapshot of Sage's global reach. And here's another snapshot that shows Sage Intacct's global reach. And if you're interested in the underlying numbers, Sage is as secure as it gets. So you no longer have to worry about things like backups, downtime, and costly server upgrades. It just works all the time. Sage Intacct isn't a solution that was retrofitted for the cloud because it's a native cloud solution from its first line of code. It's an affordable, easy-to-use solution for finance teams that need only specialized finance tools. So it's a modular solution, which means you pay for only what you need, and then you can add more functionality when you need it as you grow. We call Sage Intacct a best-of-breed solution because it's open API and makes it easy to seamlessly integrate with other best-of-breed solutions that you may be using or perhaps are thinking about using down the road. And for those integrations, Sage has what's called Sage Intacct Marketplace. So it's like a website filled with pre-built integrations that you could search for to other best-of-breed solutions for things like CRM, e-commerce, and many other things. And if the solution you want is maybe a bit older or just isn't on the marketplace, we have a built-in integration that we call Saltbox that we've developed in-house, which is our exclusive cloud-based integration solution, again, fully developed by our automation and integration experts. And just a few final words about Sage Intacct's embedded AI. So although we don't have a built-in demo for it just yet in our environment, we wanted to introduce you to Sage Copilot. Basically, Sage Copilot is like getting a very smart, productive assistant. It gives you quick answers you can trust with tools for a smoother, faster month-end close. So be sure to ask if you have any questions about Sage Copilot to your consultant when they happen to follow up with you. So that's it for me. All right, Matthew, thanks. Turn it over to you now.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent. So hi, everyone. As Brent mentioned, my name is Matthew. I'm going to walk through our demo today. Next, before we look at actual functionality, I just want to highlight a couple of the benefits you're going to get if you move to a native cloud environment. So Intacct is 100% browser based. You access it through an internet browser. So what that means is as long as you have an internet connection, a device that can access the internet, and you remember your credentials, you can log into Intacct and work wherever you are, whenever you want, at home on your personal computer or a laptop, at the airport waiting for a flight on a tablet. You can log in and do everything you see me do here today. So it really, really helps you gain some flexibility with your work schedule. Next would be servers, security, upgrades to servers, and so on. With on-prem solutions, you have on-site servers, you have to maintain those servers, you have to secure those servers, you have to upgrade those servers. All of those things cost money. With Intacct, you don't have any servers, so all of that becomes an immediate cost savings, which really helps with the investment, of course. Next would be updates to the solution itself. I know with a lot of on-prem solutions, when an update is released for that solution, you have to confirm the update. You may have to install the update multiple times on different machines. I have been in that situation, and I know for a fact that the updates don't always go as smoothly as we would like them to do. That is wasted time in your day, and it is just annoying because it just feels like something you shouldn't have to worry about. And with Intacct, that becomes very true. So since it is purely cloud-based, that allows Sage to push updates out to the solution automatically. So 4 times per year, you will see the solution update and come with some fairly substantial updated functionality, or what word am I looking for here? Kind of fine tune other functionalities, like increase the benefit of existing functionalities, make existing functionalities better. It's a very seamless update. If it weren't for the home screen that I'm on now that tells me release 3 is here, you might not even notice that the system is updated because it doesn't slow the solution down. It doesn't make the solution unavailable to you. It will not break any third-party integrations you may have. It is as seamless as you log out one day, and when you log in the following day, the day of the update, it's there, it's in the system. These are just some high-level notes about the most recent release. If you're curious about what is changing with the most recent release, you can click on read the release notes. That will bring you into a nice full table of contents. There's a nice little short highlight video here. I like the highlight video. I like to watch the highlight video and make some notes about the functionalities that I think either interest me the most or can have the greatest impact on my implementation projects. And I also like to keep an eye out for functionalities I know past clients have asked about, and I will always circle back and write them and say, hey, this functionality is here now. Do you want to jump on a call and learn how to use it? So if you do what I do and watch the video and make some notes, after you've made some notes, you can come over to the table of contents and drill into the financial section, and then you get reading material about the updates in every particular module. As you can see with the most recent release, we have seen updates across many of the modules in Intacct, a pretty extensive list here. And we also have general company updates, Copilot updates, reporting updates, certain industry solutions, and so on. So they're very broad updates, and they most times come with some really, really good functionality that our clients put to use. And then if you're curious when the updates will occur, there is the release calendar. So you can see the release dates for the calendar year of 2025. These dates are in stone, absolutely. I have yet to see Sage miss one of these update goals. These are very, very hard targets for Sage. So they ensure that the updates are released on these dates. And as we get closer to November 7th, maybe the week before, maybe the week after, it'll vary time to time, you will see the release calendar update to tell you when the releases will occur in 2026. So you can make notes of those dates and then keep an eye out for the updates that are coming in. You can get a head start because what'll happen is like a week or two before November 7th, they'll send out a little package that says, hey, here's what's coming. So it gives you a couple of weeks to prepare for it and kind of get your bearings rolling and get ready for that update to occur. So really great that the updates happen automatically. With all of that out of the way, let's look at actual functionality. So Intacct does a lot of things really, really well. Your core accounting modules, of course, from, accounts payable and accounts receivable, budgeting, your cash management module, the GL, of course. It then out of the box does give you some more powerful modules, such as the purchasing module comes out of the box, the order entry module comes out of the box. And what those are essentially a more powerful accounts payable and accounts receivable module, respectively. They allow you to have like a procurement workflow and a sales workflow with like purchase requisitions, purchase orders, sales orders, and so on. It then has more advanced modules that you can build on if you need them, such as revenue recognition, contract management, fixed asset management, inventory control, and there are more. They're not all listed here. Project costing and billing. So a lot of good modules that you can build on if you need them. So it does all of that stuff really well. But where it really outshines competition, in my opinion, comes from the financial reporting, the financial analysis that you can do, and not just the reports that Intacct can build, because of course, there are other solutions that can build reports similar to Intacct, but it's the ease of building those reports and the ease of isolating the data that you need to get to do the type of analysis that you need to do to drive decision making. Now, the backbone of that advantage comes from what Intacct calls dimensions. So out of the box, you get access to numerous dimensions. You get access to the class dimension. I have renamed the class dimension in my environment to say line of business. That is a very quick and easy thing to do. So we can meet your terminology, just as a heads up. You get the department dimension. You get the entity and location dimension. They are a little intertwined. It's a little different than the rest of the dimensions, but equally as powerful. You also get the employee dimension, and customer and vendor are also considered dimensions, but they're kind of locked down. There's no like reusing those. So they are dimensions and they have all the power of a dimension, but you're not going to repurpose that for yourself specifically, because 99% of our clients put their employees in the system, and then 100% of our clients have customers and vendors. Everybody will. So the way that I like to talk about and explain dimensions, and I'm going to use my department dimension as my example. If you are used to seeing a segmented chart of accounts, or a chart of accounts that has sub-accounts after your core GL account number, those would be what we would most likely consider to be your dimensions. In Intacct, those values will come off of your chart of accounts and they will come into their standalone lists. So for example, my department dimension here, if this were a client that we migrated to Intacct, chances are on a large portion of their revenue and expense accounts, they would have listed every GL account 5 times. One time with dash 100, another time with dash 200, then dash 300, dash 400, dash 500. And that causes your chart of accounts to just explode and get much larger than it really needs to be. So in Intacct, those sub accounts come off your chart of accounts GL number, and they will come into their standalone list. And they're still going to give you all the power and flexibility that having a separate GL account would, plus more, because we can tag multiple dimensions at a line level. So the other way that I kind of simplify what I just said is I think of your dimensions as buckets of reporting that you may want to isolate. So we want to know our departments, we need to report on our projects, we need to report on a line of business, our classes, our customers, our vendors, our items, a number of things. And the way these dimensions work is as you're entering a transaction into the system, any transaction whatsoever, whether it's an accounts payable bill, a general ledger journal entry, an AR invoice, any transaction that is going to post to your books. It's not only a GL account that you're going to tag. You will, of course, tag a GL account, but then it allows you to tag as many or as few dimensions as you have deemed relevant to the reporting for that GL account or that reporting group. So if I had an AP bill here and I wanted to allocate my rent expense out across my departments based on something like square footage or whatever allocation you do, instead of having 5 separate GL accounts, I have one GL account. But then when I come into my department dropdown, I tag out each of my different departments on the line level. So this still just creates one AP transaction in my system and one bill to pay, but it allows me to do the allocation of my rent without needing a vast amount of GL accounts. And the biggest advantage of that is financial report building and also keying of data. The more GL accounts you have, the more likely it is you're going to end up with keystroke errors on your manual input. So here I've tagged a department, but I'm not limited to only tagging a department. I could also tag a line of business if it is deemed that that is relevant to this transaction. I could also tag a project. I could also tag a location, a sub-location. Maybe our warehouse that we're paying the rent for is in Colorado and we track the financials across our US company in separate states. So maybe this is for Colorado and so on. I could also tag at the line level if I wanted to a vendor, a customer. The vendor will get tagged anyway, actually, because there's a vendor at the header level, of course. I could tag an employee, I could tag an item. If I have the inventory module, I could tag a warehouse, but we would only do that if you were receiving or selling inventory and so on. But you can tag as many dimensions as you need for every transaction. Now, what that allows you to do, it allows you to very easily report on expenses combined. Like if I wanted to run a P&L here and I didn't care about seeing the breakout across my departments, I could run a P&L and just see the full 3,000. But if I wanted to run a P&L or a GL detail report or any report in the system, and I only wanted to return results for a particular department or a particular line of business or a particular location or a particular project or a combination of those dimensions, I can do so very easily by using filters on each report that I run. So a couple of examples on how that really works. If I go to run a general ledger detail report out of Intacct, first of all, the general ledger detail report in Intacct is stronger than the general ledger detail report I've seen in any other system that I've ever used. The main reason for that is that I can actually pick and choose what I see when I run my GL detail report. So when I run it, if I want to see things such as my vendor name when I get into my AP bills, or my customer name when I'm looking at journal entries related to my receivables, or I want to see all my departments, or my lines of businesses, or my items, or my projects, I can add to my GL detail report those things so that I get to see them. So if I go ahead and I run this and I don't filter for a particular department, I'm going to get results that show me journal entries, or, they're not all journal entries. They are journal entries, but they're results of, receiving money or entering an AP bill. But you notice I can see my customer name. So I know that these two payments, these two debits into my bank account were payments from this customer. And these payments were received from this customer. I get that from my GL detail report. Of course, there are other ways for me to get there, but it's nice to get it on this report. And you'll notice that as I get down to my revenue and expenses, probably a little more relevant, you'll notice that we're seeing entries in my sales department, my services department. If I scroll up, I'm sure we will find other departments listed here. We probably have to get to some promotion expense accounts in order to see the marketing department. We might need to get to some IT accounts to see the IT department because they're probably tagged out that way. But it also allows me to isolate my data. So if after I run this, I say, well, I'm not seeing anything here for my marketing department, or there are very few for my marketing department. So it's really hard to find that data. I can come out to customize to rerun my general ledger detail report. And this time I can say, you know what? I'm really trying to figure out what's going on with my IT department. So I'm just going to run this for just my IT department. And then when I run it, we're going to get a much smaller GL detail report because everything we see on here now is going to be related to the IT department. So it's really, really easy to isolate your data and get to the level you need in order to do any type of analysis you want to do to drive decision making. So that's just on a GL detail report. Now, if I come out to a financial report, such as a P&L, of course, we can do this on balance sheet as well, but most people do tend to use their dimensions for P&L reporting. I'm going to run my profit and loss summary here. And when I run this, it's going to run a fairly standard P&L that I've built out. It's going to show the current month. I did run it for December of 2019. That's just where the data lies in this environment. I have chosen to put my prior month actuals here along with a period variance in percentage. I could have this be dollar amount if I wanted to, and I'll actually show you how simple that is to do. And then I have a year ending. So this is my entire year's P&L. So maybe after looking at this, I say, well, that's fantastic, but I would really like to see my full year's P&L broken out by my different departments. So you will have a separate report ready to go. It'll just be called year to date by department. And when you run this report, it will just be pre-configured to expand out by your different departments. So now we have our admin department, we have our IT department, we have our marketing department, sales and services. You're going to see no department here. And that is just because some transactions snuck into our demo environment, not tagged to a department. But this is something that we can control and not allow to happen with ease. And it's most likely turned on right now. It's that simple to turn on. So you just don't have to worry about this. And then you get a total to the far right. So my biggest fear when I show this report is people say, oh, it's fantastic that that can happen, but how difficult is it to do that? And the answer to the question is it's really simple. And I'm going to take this exact same report that we just looked at, and I'm going to show you how simple it is to do. And along the way, I'm also going to change my period variance from a percentage to a dollar amount instead. So we will come to that financial report. I will click edit on that report. All of what I want to do is in the columns section of my report build. So I will go to my column section, and here you'll see the columns I have listed. So I have my actuals for my current month. I have my actuals for my prior month. I have a period variance for my prior month, and variance in Intacct refers to percentage. If I want to change this to a dollar amount, I just say this is a period difference instead of a period variance. And then to do the breakout, all that takes to do is take the column that you want to expand by a particular dimension, and you just come to the expand piece and you just say expand this by my departments, and we can rerun that report. And as quickly as that, we see that we have a period difference now instead of a period variance. So it's just doing the math there, nice and simple. And you'll notice that my year to date column or my full year column is broken out by my departments. So that's how quickly you can modify financial reports in Intacct to just change and give you the information that you're looking for. It's really a quite simple thing to do. I'm going to take this expand away because I don't want this for future demos, but I actually am going to leave my period difference there as a dollar amount because I do prefer that above the variance. So that's just a little bit on financial reporting. Now, building off of the financial reporting is the dashboard capabilities in Intacct, okay? Now, you can have as many dashboards in your system as you like. There's no added charge if you have a certain amount of dashboards. You can build as many as you like. You can see in my environment here, I've got at least 20 by the looks of it at a quick count. Each dashboard, you can actually determine who can and cannot see that dashboard on an individual basis, individual dashboard basis. So you still get that data security that you're going to be looking for. Now, the dashboards are really nice because they are super customizable. They're very easy to build, and they can really give you a lot of the data that you're looking for in a snapshot, but not just a snapshot. And that's the beautiful thing about them. So if we take a look at this dashboard, we've basically got a P&L at the top here. The top line is our revenue, the middle line is our net income, and the bottom line is our expenses. And there's a nice key at the bottom so that we don't forget that. We then have some performance indicators here in the middle. So we're comparing our services revenue to our budget. We are comparing our total revenue to the prior month. We are comparing our direct labor costs to the prior month, our chargeability to 2 months prior, for solely for the reason to show flexibility. Like it doesn't have to be the prior month or your budget. It can be 2 months prior, 3 months prior, this quarter versus last quarter, this year versus last year to date, so on. You can really pick and choose what you're comparing against, operating expenses against budget and operating margin against prior month. We've then got some more graphs in the middle here. So a horizontally stacked bar graph, a vertically stacked bar graph, a pie chart, more performance indicators, more graphs, more indicators, more graphs, and so on. Now, these reports can also be filtered just like your financial reports. So if I want to look at this dashboard only for my marketing department, I can go ahead and just click apply, and we're going to see this dashboard change pretty drastically. There's not going to be much revenue. The marketing department does not drive revenue, so probably going to see a pretty steep loss here. And we do, right? Our net income is down at the loss because we're not driving any revenue in the middle. We're not seeing any revenue in our performance indicators. And I don't mind that showing because it's just proof that the filtering is working. So I'm actually going to clear my filters, and I'm going to put in my date back here though, back to 2019. When this reloads, I'm just going to talk about a couple of things that I really like with these dashboards. First of all, some of them are a little interactive. Like if I want to isolate my net income line, I can click on my key to take away the other two lines. I can add them back with a simple click as well. If I want to see the financial data that is behind every dot or every stacked column or every stacked bar here, there is a nice show data button in the bottom right corner of every graph, and that just gives you the financial view, which is really, really nice to just be able to see all that data at a glance. It's just there at your fingertips. But my favorite part about these dashboards is since any graph that you see is derived from a financial report, it is going to maintain its drill down functionality. So if I hover over a revenue dot, I can see it's 1.234 million. But if I want to see what makes up that dollar amount, I can click on that dot. That will open up the revenue portion of my P&L and then allow me to continue to drill back from the financial report like I can do from every other financial report. So click on $1 value, it brings me to a GL detail report. Click on a dollar value from my GL detail report, and I'm getting back to a source transaction or a source journal entry. If I click on an expense dot, it's going to open up the expense portion of my P&L. And I think everybody is going to put together what happens if I click on a net income dot. It's of course going to open up my entire P&L. So this is one example of a dashboard. This one is built for the CFO. Another dashboard we could take a quick look at before we move on would be this controller dashboard. It's structured a little bit differently, not quite as flashy with graphs, more a little bit to the point, I guess you could say. So again, we've got some performance indicators at the top here. We have a P&L versus our budget in the middle here. It's kind of a different P&L versus budget report. I think I was playing with this one a little bit. We then have a closed through summary for our modules. You'll notice some inconsistencies there, but that is just a demo environment. We have a working checklist for our controller. We've got expenditures versus budget for professional fees for some reason. Just pick and choose what each user would want to see on their dashboard. So really great stuff with the dashboards. Moving away from dashboard functionality and financial reporting, the next piece I will talk about will just be very brief on multi-entity and consolidations. So if you're working for an organization that has multiple different operating entities under that corporate umbrella that have separate tax IDs, they have to file their own financial reports and so on. I know with a lot of different solutions, if you're doing work in one of those companies and you need to do work in another one of those companies, it involves you logging out of one and logging back into the other. In Intacct, that does not happen. So you can see here under my top level, I have 8 different operating entities. My 3 US companies, my Canadian company, a UK company, an Australia company, a South Africa company, and another company that I have created just for doing demos. If I'm doing work in USA Company 1, like I was viewing this dashboard, and I say, I want to see this data for USA Company 2, I don't have to log out and log back in. I can click on USA Company 2. That will open up USA Company 2 in a separate internet tab for me. It should bring me right to that dashboard. Yes, it did. Sometimes the dashboards don't like to work that way, but most times they will. Now, if I say, oh, I meant to be in my Canada company, I can again click my drop down and open up my Canada company, and it again will open up in a different tab. So very quick navigation into your different entities, allowing you to work across multiple entities at the same time without having to worry about logging out and logging back in. Now, the question I always get from this is, I have employees that should be able to work in my US companies, but they shouldn't be able to see any data or work in any other environment other than the 3 US companies. That is super easy to do. We simply go to their user record, and on their user record, Catherine is actually labeled here UK, I will be willing to bet when I click on my user entities here, she is restricted to the UK company. So when this user logs in, she will not log into the top level. She will not be able to click this drop down list and see all of these different entities. She would simply be logged into the UK company. Now, if you do have a user, like if I were to add USA Company 1 here to this user, when they log in, they would log into the top level, but when they click this drop down, they would only see USA Company 1 and the United Kingdom Company. They would not see everything in between or after. So it's very easy to restrict and modify those restrictions for your users so that they can only see and access the data they should be able to access. On top of all of that, the multi-entity management and the ease of working across your entities, if you need to consolidate the financials for those entities, Intacct does allow you to create consolidation books, as many as you need. You can pick and choose which entities should be in that consolidation book, and then you can run your consolidations and consolidate it into any currency in the world. And Intacct will do all of that heavy lifting for you and allow you to very easily see your consolidated financial reports. All of these different companies, they are operating in their own functional currencies. So Australia reports in Australian dollars, Canada in Canadian dollars, South Africa in the South African rand, US in USD, and the UK company in GBP. So at any point in time, I can create a set of consolidation books to consolidate the financials for any combination of these entities into any currency in the world that I choose. And it's a very quick and simple process to do that. So really good stuff here with Global Consolidation module. Any intercompany transactions and elimination entries will be system driven, and processing multi-currency transactions is an absolute breeze as well. So I'm in my USA company right now, which has a functional currency of US dollars. But if I put in an AP transaction from a Canadian vendor, you'll notice that my transaction currency is CAD. My exchange rate date is today, and there is already an exchange rate in the system. I do not need to import exchange rates. These are sourced directly from Oanda. There's a direct connection with Oanda that just pulls these rates in every single day, and it is fully historical. I can change my exchange rate here back to this today in 2005, 20 years ago, and the system will normally much faster than this pick up what the exchange rate was at that point in time for us. So if I come down to my coding and I say this is 500 Canadian dollars, that gets converted on the spot to 410.45 US dollars, and away we go. Now, when we pay this bill, the system will look at what the exchange rate is on the date that we pay it. It will look at the exchange rate that was valid at the time we entered the transaction, and it will also automatically record our realized exchange rate gain or loss. So just a little bit more automation for you. So a really good module there with the multi-entity, multi-currency global consolidations. The next module that I will talk about is going to be the purchasing module. Now, keep in mind that the purchasing module, as I mentioned earlier, is just a more powerful accounts payable module, okay? The AP module in Intacct is absolutely phenomenal. You can edit bills as long as the period is open. Even if your bill is paid, you can make changes on that transaction that wouldn't affect the vendor. So this transaction here, even though it's paid, if my period is open, the system would allow me to make changes to things like the GL account that I coded it to, or the department that it was allocated to, because that doesn't matter to the vendor. It doesn't affect the vendor if we change this coding. So there's no reason that we should have to either do a manual journal entry or reverse a payment, reverse an invoice, make a new invoice and code it correctly. So Intacct will allow you to make those changes. So just a heads up that the AP module is very, very strong. The reason that we talk about the purchasing module is it just tends to resonate with people a little bit more because it allows you to create a procurement workflow, whatever workflow you need. It doesn't have to be a purchase requisition to a purchase order to a receipt of inventory to a vendor invoice. You can have just purchase orders to a vendor invoice. It is going to match the documents from your workflow up with one another So if we start with a purchase requisition and we get to a purchase order and then we get to a vendor invoice, those three documents will be linked together. So you get your three-way match. We can handle things such as variance allowances between documents. So we can set a percentage that says if we enter a purchase requisition, when the purchase order comes in, the price is allowed to vary, be different by 5% or 7% or 3%. If it's anything higher than the percentage or lower than the percentage that we set, we want to get notified about that and we want to look into it a little bit more. And also, what people like the most really is you can establish an approval policy on any of the documents in your workflow. So you can have an approval policy on every document in your workflow. You can have an approval policy on certain parts of your workflow or just one part of your workflow. Those approvals are going to stay in-house. They will be system driven. Approvers receive emails like these transactions were entered. They require your approval. The original submitter gets an email when the transaction is either approved or declined. And it really allows your workflow to become a lot more efficient. The biggest question that we always get asked about these approvals is how can we route those approvals? So the approvals can be routed numerous ways. They can be value driven. So you set the thresholds for your different steps of values, right? 0 to 50,000 is level 1, 50,000 to 100,000 is level 2, with 100,000 150,000 is level 3. You set those levels, and then whatever bucket the total of a document falls into, it's routed to that level for approval. Now, those levels can be direct or progressive. So what I mean by that is if a transaction gets entered in your system and its final value qualifies for level 3 approval. If we do the direct method of approvals, that would skip level 1, skip level 2, go right to a level 3 approver who has level 3 signing authority. If we do progressive value approval, it goes first to a level 1 person, next to a level 2 person, then to a level 3 person. They can actually get routed. You can specify just a specific person. You can say they all go to Matthew for approval. Matthew's going to spend all his time just approving transactions. Or they can be dimensional based. So that is the most popular choice among everybody. The department dimension, the project dimension, the location dimension, and the employee dimension. All of those two are kind of hidden down here a little bit, location and employee. That is just by design. Each different selection that you have under that dimensional drop down list, such as our sales department, can have a manager assigned to it who is a user and an employee of your organization. So if we turn on department manager approvals, if I put in a purchase requisition, as I submit this for approval, the system will look and say department 100 is tagged at the line level. The manager of department 100 is Mark, so we're going to route this to Mark for approval. So the project dimension, the employee dimension, and the location dimension can all do that as well. And on top of all of those different ways of approval, it is not a one-to-one relationship. It's not a one-step approval policy. So you can configure up to 6 steps in the approval policy for a document. So you could say, first, this transaction should go to the project manager. After it goes to the project manager, then we want it to go to the department manager. After it goes to the department manager, we're going to go through value approval. After it goes through value approval, we're going to send it to Matthew to approve. So it can have multiple steps in your approval workflow. And that is going to come with a very strong audit trail, as will the three-way match that I talked about a few moments ago. So let's start with the three-way match. We see our purchase requisitions here. If we see a status of converted, that means that this document has been entered, it went through any approval policies, it got approved, and somebody has moved it along our workflow. So we at least have a purchase order that is related to this purchase requisition. If we want to see how far along it is, we can click on the word converted. That will open up the document history, and we can see it started as a purchase requisition. It has been converted into a purchase order. So we're only at the purchase order stage. If the purchase order had gotten moved into a vendor invoice, we would see that step here. From here, we can drill into the purchase order if we want to go back and look at it. So you get the drill down functionality and quick access as well. And we also have an approval history tab up here. So we can click on approval history and we can make sure that this went through our approval workflow. So first it was supposed to go to our department manager, who was Mark. After it went to Mark, it was going to go directly to a particular user, who was Tom. And then after Tom, it was going to go directly to another user, who was Vincent. If you look at the approved or declined by, you can see that none of those people approved this transaction. It was approved by me. And I put a note as to why, or I didn't put one on this one, but this is just meant to highlight that nothing can get stuck in limbo. We can override the approvals if Mark, Tom, and Vincent are not available to approve this transaction so that it can get pushed through the workflow. If we come back to the next screen and we see the word pending, that means that this document has been entered and approved and it's ready to move along our workflow. So if we're ready to create the purchase order related to this purchase requisition, we can click on the word convert, say we want to convert this into a purchase order. That will take all of the information off of our original purchase requisition and map it onto the screen for a purchase order. You can see that it's linked to that document right from the start. So that'll really help us speed up our keying time and reduce our keying errors. And it also gives you a really strong audit trail on your three-way match. And then if we see the word submitted, that of course means this transaction has been submitted for approval. It has yet to be approved. So maybe we want to go in and see who this is sitting with for approval. We can click on the approval history tab again, and we can say, okay, this has gone to Ryan for approval. He still hasn't approved it. After it goes to Ryan and Ryan approves it, then it's going to go on to Tom. So we would be able to follow up with Ryan and just ask why this isn't approved yet or declined, get them to push it through the workflow, and away we go. So some really nice audit trails, some really nice visibility, and a really powerful module that is really quite easy to use. Now, similar to the purchasing module, we have the order entry module, which again is just a more powerful AR module. The accounts receivable module in Intacct is absolutely wonderful. Being completely honest, most people use the AR module instead of the OE module. Clients will tend to use the purchasing module to get the procurement workflow, but when it comes to their sales, they don't really have a sales workflow. But one of the great things about the order entry and AR modules that everybody likes is the ability to send out your invoices or your sales orders or your sales documents, any of your sales documents out to your clients with ease. Other than that, it is pretty much a twin of the purchasing module, kind of like how accounts receivable and accounts payable are twin modules of one another. Like they do the exact same functionalities, just on different sides of the business, revenue versus expenses. The purchasing and order entry module are the same. So if you want to send out your documents, your invoices, your sales orders, you can come into print or email documents. You can set some filters up to make sure you get the data you're looking for. I'm going to do the entire year of 2019. I am going to click on previously sent because I've done this at least 100 times now, I think. And I'm only going to send out my sales invoices. But as you can see here, we can send out any document in our sales workflow, sales orders as well. All we have to do is click on view. The system is going to go out and now look for any invoices and sales orders that match my parameters. It's going to pull them onto this screen for me, and I can email them all out just by clicking email on the top of the screen here. Now, please don't fret that we don't see email checked or email addresses in the boxes. It is a demo environment. We don't have email addresses attached in here. If we did, this checkbox would automatically be selected. The email addresses would automatically be showing in these boxes for us. We could change or modify or add to them on the fly if we wanted to. And then we can just click print or email and they all go out. That does come with a really nice audit trail, our email delivery log, so we can actually check if it left our system successfully and if it was delivered into the other's inbox successfully or not. And it does come with error messages if it is not, that your IT team would certainly be able to help you with in conjunction with ourselves, of course. You can do the same thing with your statements or late payment notices. If you wanted to send payment reminders out to your clients, Intacct calls them dunning notices, we can do that as well. So statements and dunning notices with ease out of Sage Intacct. So a really good functionality. The last module that I will talk to will be the projects module. So the projects module is pretty popular for a number of reasons. First of all, there is a very low level of the projects module that is just called project tracking, where if you don't do project costing and billing, but you do things like put off conferences or put off events or have a funding, use a lot for funders and grants for not for profits, you can get just the project dimension to give you that extra dimension to track your financial data across. And then if you want to go a step forward and get project costing and billing because you have projects that you bill your clients back for, then you get the project costing and billing module, which allows your employees to come into the system, enter their time into the system on their timesheet, and allocate it out to a project and a task related to that project. Of course, the project I pick would not have any tasks, but you see, we have like our needs analysis, design, and build. They can put in their time and mark their time as being billable or non-billable. They can also enter in their employee expenses, and we can also put in type of expenses that we bill back to the client. So rechargeable expenses to our client. So if we put in an AP bill and we say it is for our mobile app platform project, we can mark that as being billable and we can bill it back to our client with an automated process. Now, as you set a project up in the system, you get the opportunity to add a lot of valuable data in here. So we put in things like the project name. You can organize your projects under different types to group them for financial reporting or analysis. If it's a billable project, of course, you will want to link it to a customer so the system knows who to bill. It can have a beginning and an end date. We can have parent-child relationships. We can have statuses. And over here, these are custom fields that I've actually added in that you could add in with these, which is really nice. We can then assign this project to particular dimensions. This is just meant to help with keying time. So if we have a project tagged to a location, a department, and a line of business, as I'm entering a transaction in the system, if I choose my project first, all of those other dimensions will autofill for me. So this is project 10006. So if I'm putting in an AP bill and I say this is for project 1006, you'll notice my location, my department, and my line of business have all auto-populated for me. So it's just, again, meant to help with keying time and keying errors. We assign a project manager, multiple purposes for this. The first being what we just talked about with the approval policies, and the next being building dashboards for your project managers. So any metric that we build to put on a dashboard for the project manager, we create groups that say only include projects where Ryan is the manager, because he should only be able to see that data. He shouldn't be able to see anybody else's projects. So that's pretty much the primary use for that field. When we move to our additional info tab, we're going to see some grant fields at the top here. This is, again, meant for not-for-profits who want to manage their grants in this module. So we get some revenue restrictions and restriction expiration years and first restriction expiration date. We then have a CIFA section. And we get back into project costing and billing type fields. So we have a percentage of completion area here. The system can calculate a percentage of completion for you automatically. The way that the system does its calculation is based off of the estimated hours that have been put into the system compared to the actual hours in the system. So if we do 1232 divided by 1365, we get that this project is 90.26% complete. I know a lot of people don't recognize percentage of completion based off of hours entered into the system. So if you at any point in time can come into this section and say, you know what, this project is actually 100% complete. Now, as I do that, if I scroll up to the top, you'll notice I get a warning here that tells me by setting my observed percentage of completion to 100, I could trigger revenue recognition or billing for the client for the remaining amount of the contract. So that is just proof of two things. First of all, it is proof that we can handle RevRec or billing to a client based off of percentage of completion metric. It also proves that the system will respect what we put in as the observed percentage of completion compared to what it has entered. So it respects what we put in here, not what it has calculated. If we leave this blank, it does RevRec and billing based off of the percentage that it calculates. But if we override it, then it respects what we enter. Next, we have billing type. Since there are billings completed for this project, I can't change this field here, but the three options that you get here are time and material, fixed fee, or fixed fee and expenses. Down below, we just have some other functionalities. I don't have a lot of time to get into this right now, but essentially what it can do is trigger additional journal entries to be entered when a timesheet is entered into the system. So if you want to record additional labor costs, like additional indirect costs, labor, overhead, etc. When a timesheet gets entered, then we can set up those calculations to happen. When we get to the resources and billing screen, this is where we put in our employees that will work on this project. And this is where we tell the system when we bill back our client, how much is this person billed back at? What is their rate that we bill back to the client? This can change from project to project. Just because Ryan is 225 on this project doesn't mean he's 225 on every project. And then this is where we can choose if we're going to mark up any rechargeable expenses that we incur for the project. Right now it's at 0%, but if I wanted to change it, I could just make a click and type in the percentage, and that will update the markup on that project. After that, we get a project summary tab. This is just a nice summary that is fully system driven. So it just brings in all of these different metrics for you and lets you do some comparison nice and easy. Shows your billable hours, shows how many of those hours have been billed. So we have completed billing for this project. We're up to date because all of our hours are billed out. And it looks like all of our expenses, well, we got 232 of expenses to bill back. Maybe we did that purposely. So once you're ready to generate your bills for your projects, we can come out to generate invoices. If you want to generate invoices for all of your projects at once, we would just leave all of our filters here blank and we would just tell the system to do its thing. But for the sake of time, I'm going to create a bill for a very specific project, my Friday demo project. We used to do these demos on Fridays, but we switched them to Tuesdays. So that's why that's called a Friday demo project. And when I click preview, the system is going to go out and look for any time, any reimbursable expenses that we haven't billed back yet, just anything that should be billed to that client for this project based off what is in the system that is yet to be billed. So it's going out now looking to see if anything is out there. It has come back and said we have an amount of $12,549.10 to bill back. If we scroll down, we will get a breakdown of what makes up that dollar amount. The vast majority of it is billable time entered by Ryan. So $9,280 of that is for Ryan's billable time. If we scroll down, we have some reimbursable expenses. And you can see that there's a fee percentage markup on these. So we're billing our client $612, but we should not have paid $612 for this because it's supposed to have a 2% markup. So if we come back out, we can look at the original transaction that cost us $600. So 1% of 600 is 6, which means 2% is 12. So the fact that we're billing back our client $612 makes perfect sense. So we can trust that the system is doing its math correctly and we're billing the client correctly. And then from here, we would be able to click on create invoice and all of our revenue gets recorded, our invoice gets generated, and we can send our invoice out to our client. So a really nice projects module. Before I open up the floor for questions, the last thing I just want to say is I don't want anybody to walk away today thinking they've seen everything in Intacct. It couldn't be further from the truth. The modules that I did show, I showed really, really quickly, and I still didn't even really finish on time because I should have opened the floor probably 5 minutes ago. Everything that I showed, I could have gone on for at least another 15 or 20 minutes. There are so many different functionalities that I could get into in every module. On top of that, there are modules that I didn't even get to show, such as our cash management module, where we can handle your bank reconciliations in the system. We can allow you to generate EFT files or ACH files to pay your vendors. I didn't really get a chance to talk about revenue recognition. So there's a full-blown revenue recognition module in the system, deferred revenue subledger, everything you want with a RevRec module. There's a full inventory control module where we can do inventory fluctuations, inventory replenishment, warehousing, serial number tracking, expiration date tracking, a strong inventory module. There's a fixed asset management module where we can add your assets into the subledger as you enter in the bill related to that asset, and then you can generate the depreciation schedules and have them automatically post. There's a time module, some stronger budgeting, just a vast amount of other modules that we could talk about. So I just like to let people know, like, hey, we really only glossed over the surface of the capabilities that Intacct has. So if you would like to see any functionality in a little more depth, all you have to do is let us know, and we will be happy to do that for you and show you a more in-depth demo. I don't see any questions coming through right now. So once again, thank you all so much for coming out and participating in our weekly demo. If you want to see anything in more depth, please reach out and we will be happy to do so. Other than that, have a wonderful day and all the best.